Kelvin, how are you doing? Do you want to talk? If you want to talk, I'll raise up and let me unmute you. So we're talking about Express JS. So today we're talking about what is Express JS, model view controller architecture. We're talking about routing in Express JS and also how to install Express JS. In our last class, we talked about Node.js. That's Node.js allows us to run JavaScript code outside of the browser environment, right? So today we're talking about Express.js, which is an open source web framework for Node.js. The framework allows you to work better, write codes faster, debug faster, and also have access to some tools. So that's what a framework is all about. Then what are the functionalities of Express.js? What are the key features? Express.js supports what we know as middleware, which can modify requests. When you send a request to the server, so before the request is sent to the controller or to the right channel, let me just say the right channel, the middleware will first check the request, and also it can modify it. It can even return error based on the request that you are sending. So with that, you can do a lot of things. When the request comes in, you can check whether the request is coming from an authenticated user. You can also do file compression. You can do you can do session management and stuff like that in the middleware. You get what I'm trying to say? So that's one of the purposes of middleware. And we have different middleware. We have Morgan. There are a lot of third-party middlewares that you can use. We have Morgan, we have Helmet. So for Morgan is for all the session management and related stuff, while Helmet is for security. So if you need to add security to your Express JS application, you can just use Helmet middleware. So for routing can be used to create endpoints. You can see that there's URI. It's not URL this time around. So what's the difference between URI and URL? Someone should raise up his hand to tell us what URI and URL is all about. What's the difference between URI and URL? Okay, Lukman. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's correct to some extent, but the main difference is that URL stands for the link, which is going to help to it's used to locate resource on the internet. You get what I'm trying to say? But for URI, it can be file-based anywhere. It doesn't have to be the internet. It can be anywhere. It can even be a file storage. It's you can use it to even label anything in particular. Like it doesn't have to be just internet. It extends beyond internet. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So uniform resource locator, right? And we have the uniform resource identifier. So that's hello, are you there? So that identifier can identify anything, basically, even for IPFS. You see that when you upload stuff to IPFS, you get a URI, right? So that URI it's used to identify files on the IPFS network, which is outside of the internet. So the URI extends beyond just normal links. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So that's it. So for routing, when we're talking about routing, it's used to create an endpoint that can accept and also return a response. So when you hear developers talking about endpoint, the endpoint is not working. It's basically an endpoint is oh sorry. So let me just continue. An endpoint is a URI that can accept requests and also send what? Back response. Do you get? So in this sense, when you are working with backend applications, you need to provide different different endpoints for the front-end developer to work with. You can provide the login endpoint, the forgot password endpoint, the registration endpoint. You can also have other endpoints, like maybe to retrieve your profile details and also to update profile detail. So that's just what endpoints are all about. Then templates, that is for dynamic HTML. That is for dynamic HTML rendering. So for example, now if you have a view is what the user will see when they come to when they click on your backend link. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So what they see is basically what? The view. So for you to make a dynamic view, something that can change basically, maybe, when as a user, when you come to, maybe you go to a website like arbitrum.com and you connect with your wallet, then it sends your wallet to the backend to retrieve some data from the website. So what you see will be different from what another person will see, right? That other person might see hello ABC. Then because your own name is BCD, when you click on the website, what you see is what? Different BCD. So it's dynamic in nature. So then we have one thing called the model view controller architecture, which is we're going to be talking about it in length in the next slide. But one thing again about Express.js is that it's basically emphasis on simplicity, flexibility, and performance. So by default, Express.js is very simple. With just 2, 3, 4 lines of code, we can get started. Don't have to like worry about downloading maybe like 100 gig of files or stuff from the internet before you can get started. Once you have Node.js installed on your system, the next thing is just to install Express.js. Then you can start writing your Express.js applications. So the next thing is the model view controller, which is MVC architecture. The MVC architecture is a popular structure for your web applications, and the key components are as follows. Oh, sorry, you can't see my screen. Okay. Yeah. So the key components are as follows. The model represents your application data. Oh, you can't see it yet. Okay, sorry. Okay. The model represents your application's data and business logic. So instead of dealing with the database directly, right, you can have a model that will abstract the database for you. So it makes it very easy to plug in different database. You can use MySQL, PostgreSQL. It doesn't have to be just one kind of database because the model is already abstracting the underlying database for you. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So that's what the model is all about. The next thing is the view. I mentioned something about the data. Hello?
Yes,
Can you
sir.
hear me?
So yes, I can hear you, sir. Your screen has stopped sharing. Sorry to.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, it's back up, sir.
Okay, thank you. So the view is responsible for rendering the user interface, and it uses template engine like Pog and also the EJS. Yeah, I think I prefer EJS personally than this Pog because it's very similar to your normal HTML file. Do you get? Just add some basic syntax to make it more dynamic. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So when you render the view for your users, they can easily see what's going on in the backend. If they are logged in and their name is maybe ABC, they're able to see it from the view. Do you get what I'm trying to say? The view is just like a front-end application, middle, like it's majorly like front end, but it's coming from the back end this time around. So that's it. Then the controller is where everything happens. The controller acts as an intermediary between the model and the what? And the the model and the view. Yeah. The model and the view. And this is how it works, basically. When you send in a request, right? The request goes to the maybe you have a middleware and all those stuff, but it gets to the controller at the end of the day. Then the controller will now retrieve data from the database using the model. Do you get? It's retrieve data based on your model. Then once you retrieve the data, then you can now render those data using what? The view. Do you get how it works now? The request is coming to the controller. The controller is getting data from the database using the what? The model. Do you get? The model is just an abstraction of the database. Instead of dealing with the database directly, you are dealing with what? The model. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So don't need to worry about the complexity of setting up maybe like writing custom queries and doing stuff like that. You might not even know much about SQL and stuff. Then you can start writing your backend application because just need to worry about the structure of your model. Is it well modeled? Then once you are done with that, once you are done with fetching data from the database to the model, you can now render it on the screen using what? The view. So that's basically how the MVC framework works. Do you get what I'm trying to say? The architecture, the MVC architecture, that's how it works. It works based on the model, the view, and the controller. So that's it. And so now let's now go to routing. Routing in Express.js. So a route provides an interface to communicate with a backend application. I mentioned this already, right? That it serves as an interface for you to communicate with your backend application. There are different things requests can send to the backend application. You can send a GET request. You can send a POST request. When you hear GET request, it's all about getting data from the backend. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You get data. When you hear POST, you are submitting the data to the backend to maybe create a new record. So that's how it works. We have other methods too, but let's just stop there now. When you hear route path is just like the file on your system. You get what I'm trying to say? Maybe /home/ your name / something. So that route path can be likened to what? The path on your system. Do you get? Then the request method is the kind of HTTP method you are sending to the path. I mentioned already I can send get, post, and delete, patch, put, all those request methods. So when you want to open a file on your system, you have to know where it is located, right? You have to know the path where it is located. So once you know the path, that can be likened to the route path. Then what is the right application to open it, right? So if you use, maybe you have something like a PDF file, then you are using note editor to open it. It might not really work, right? So that can be likened to what this route method. So if you have a route that supports only get method, you cannot send what post to it. It what work. So when we start coding, you will understand better. Then we also have the route handler. The route handler is a callback function that basically takes all your requests and also return back a response or throw error sometimes based on the condition. If there is an error, it can throw error too. So that's it. Then the route parameters are used to make an endpoint dynamic. So do you notice that there are some websites where you go and you see something like product /1, product /2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. and so on and so forth, right? So it's not possible for the backend or the front end developer to code each URL. Just imagine like having 10,000 or 100,000 products. So now coding each of them one by one. No, it's not possible. It's not feasible. So what we do is that we make it dynamic. So that dynamic is by changing, instead of having those numbers statically like /1, /2, we just use a parameter to represent it, right? So when that parameter changes, we render the view based on the change. I'm trying to say. So there's going to be a single page, but that page can now be dynamic. So each session can have dynamic, can have like hello, something that is dynamic, comma. So when you send request, you can have like hello, Abiola instead of that parameter. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So that's how it works basically when you get route parameter. So to install Express.js, this is what you just need to run. A very simple command, just one line of code. But one thing is that theory, it's majorly like, it's just for you to understand some basic, have basic understanding of how the whole system works. When we start coding, we go slow. We take it a step at a time to understand how everything functions. So thank you very much. So I'll be opening my code space. So you can check training 20B. So yeah. So this 2020B, right? I don't use this 2020B. I'm going to create a new file or a new folder under training 20B and name it code practice. Yeah, CD training 20B. I'll now make a new directory. Call it practice. Okay. Created a new file, a new folder, and this is the new folder here. This is the new folder. So what I will do now is that I will say CD practice. I've opened the folder. So I've opened the folder, right? The next thing I will do is I will try to install Express.js, right? But before I do that, I need to start a new Node.js project. What command will I use? What's the command? npm what? Init. Yeah. npm init what? Hyphen y. So this y is the flag, just to automatically click on yes to all the options that we bring in. If you don't put the y there, it will still work. But you have to click on yes or no manually to all the to all the questions that you'll be asked by the setup command. So now let's okay, after running the command, you can come to the practice folder and you see how you have package.json, right? Which is enough for what we want to do. So that's the first command. The second command we'll be running is let me check the, okay. So the second command I'll be running now is npm install express, right? You can add this flag, save, just save it on your system. So let's save it. You can see that we now have the node modules, right? Then we also have a new dependency under the dependencies object. Do you get? So that's just it. After running the command, the next thing for us to do now is to create a new file. We'll be using just a single file for everything that we'll be doing. A single what? File. So inside that single file, you can do index.ds. Then inside that file, what we'll do is that we import the Express framework by saying what? Const express is equal to require express, which is normal for importing anything in JavaScript. You get? Then the next thing is once you import it, you also need to create a new app. It doesn't have to be app, but you can name it anything. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'll be naming it app. So const app is equal to express, which is a function. So that's it. That's all you need to do. The next thing is you can now do something like this. Now, this app now, that's where you start specifying each of these app you are seeing is a route, right? You can now say app.get. You want a get method, right? If you want post, you can say app.post. If you want maybe like a put, you can say put. You can say app.delete. Do you get? So these are what route methods that are available. The other ones too. App.patch. You get? So you can have all these request methods. Some of this request method in your code. Now, once you're done with the request method, for each route, you need to pass the route path, the path of the route, then also a route handler for it to work. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So you need to pass it. It can say maybe like you can use an empty string if you want it to be at the root of the what of your project, like of the URL. But if you want it to be on something like slash, maybe like slash product slash maybe profile or something, you can just say slash profile. You get what I'm trying to say? So that's going to make it under slash profile. Do you get me? So slash profile. Then the route handler, which is it has to be, or the request handler, which has to be like an asynchronous function. Asynchronous function. Just name it the asynchronous function. Then the next thing is you have to specify the request and also the response. Wait, let's try to have more screenshots. Okay. Now we're getting an error. Okay. So that's it basically. So this is what you need to basically set up your endpoint. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So this is a get endpoint because you can only send what get request to this endpoint. And this endpoint is located under what? Slash profile, right? So that's how it works basically. Every other thing that you want to do now should be inside your request handler. Do you get? Now what we do now is that after we are done with this, our route method, you can have thousands of route methods. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You can have thousands of routes in your project. It doesn't have to just be one. We're just starting. That's why we added only one. So you have to have an app.listen. Then when you have the app.listen, it's going to specify where you want to listen to, right? If it is port 3000, port 8000, or any port number you want. Let's use port 3000. Then and also have a callback that maybe log out something on screen. Okay, server started or something like that. You get console.log server started. It doesn't have to be something too long, just to specify that the server started. Just now, the next thing is let's try to start up the server, right? How do we start up the server? By specifying what the name of the file you want to start on, node index.js. You can see that there's a message there that server started, right? And you can see that there's a pop-up saying running on port 3000 is available. So when I click on open browser, it will, it should not work actually because we're not returning any, we're not returning any response. Can you see what cannot what get, right? And that's because, okay, our path is not correct. Safe. Do you get? There's another problem. Hello, this was root path, right? We have to add / practice at the back, right? So now this / practice at the back is going to match with this particular what route. Do you get? It's going to match with this particular route. So on clicking enter, we are not getting any. Sorry, the / profile, not practice. Profile. Let's see what we have. So it's loading forever, and that's because we don't have what a response. Do you get? We need to send back a response so that the server will not keep loading forever. Because now look at this, we don't have maybe ABC as a path. It will not even work at all. Cannot get ABC. But once you have like that / profile, and profile is what it existed as a route, it's going to match that route. But because you're not returning anything, it's going to keep on loading forever and ever. So it's going to, so now for you to now return something, you can just come here and say response, this response here, this starts for what? Response. Res dot send. What are you sending back? Let me say you're sending hello world back to the user. It's just very simple. What you are doing is that you are taking in the request and sending back what? Hello world as the response. So let's try to start the server. Let's go back to our URL. Let's refresh it. You can see that we now see what? Hello world, and it's not hanging like before. Do you get? And that's because we got a request from the client side. Then what now return what? Back a response. That's how the backend works basically. You get a request, and you return what? A response. Is there any question? Any question at this point? Okay, no question. Let me check people that are joining us online. Okay, no question. But is there a question? No question for now. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's continue with our code. Let's add another route. Let's add another route, and that route should be the root, should be in the root of our project. This / profile. Let's save it. So this is what we can now return something like welcome home, right? We can shut this down. Let's restart the server again. And if you go to the root of our, see the difference now. You see that part we did not specify any /, right? It's just empty. So when I go to this part, it should show us what? Welcome home. And that's because what? It matches with this particular route here. Do you get? It matches with this particular route here. Because it's an empty listing. So now, this is just the first thing we did now is we talked about various request methods, right? Now let's talk about posts. The difference between post and get is that when you are using get, every query parameter will be showing in the browser here, right? And you can initiate a get request by just clicking on any link. Do you get what I'm trying to say? If you click on any link, you're initiating what? Get request. So like this now, I'm initiating a get request by default. It's not what? A post request. To initialize a post request, you might need like to write some code or to use special tools. Do you get? So it's the work of the front-end developer to set that up. But as a back-end developer, you also have to have idea of how the front-end guy is going to do it, right? So for us to now we need to set up an endpoint that supports. I'm coming. We need to set up an endpoint that supports posts. All the endpoint we have so far only supports what? Get. Let me try to zoom out a bit. So is this the same thing? Even this, just copy this and what? Set it as what? Post. Do you get? So this is what now post. The same URL now supports two what? Methods. This same URL now supports how many methods? Two methods. What methods? Get and post. You can even add a third method, like what? Delete. You can test all this later on. But for now, let's test these three. Let's now shut down the server. Let's say welcome home, sending post request. Welcome home, sending get request, right? Welcome home, sending delete request. Do you get? Those are the three endpoints we have for that. Three request method we have for that same endpoint. Let's now try to start up the server again. The server is running now, right? If I go to my browser now and I click on this URL, okay. What are you seeing on the screen? That means what? When you click on a link, by default, you send a what? Get request. How do you now send a post request? You can use a tool like Postman. You can even use other tools. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like Insomnia, all those API testing tools. But this one we are using is called Postman. It's very easy to understand. The first thing you need to do is you need to set up your request. So just come and say new. It will ask what you want to set up. Is it WebSocket request? Is it MQTT? All those protocol. What protocol are we setting up for? We're setting up for HTTP, right? So just click on HTTP. If you meant to click on HTTP, you should bring oh, why is it taking so long? Okay. Welcome back. So now you see that we have this window. Let me try to zoom in. Okay. We have this window, right? For us to now send a GET request, just paste the URL you want to set a GET request to. So this URL I want to send a GET request to. And you can see that there's this method here. So let's send it. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, let's see. Let's preview what we are seeing. It should not work because the way I set up my GitHub code space, I set it up to private. It should not. I want to make it public now. Let me go and do that. So what I will do now is I will come here. I will make it what? Public. Do you see? So that's the only time it can now be public. Okay, let's try to send it again and see what that. You see now it is what? Working because it's what? Now public. If I don't set that as public, I'll be the only one to access this endpoint. So now to not change the request method you are sending, let me change it to post and I'll send it. You see what? Welcome sending what? Post request. So based on the request method that you are sending to the endpoint, the server will what? Respond. The response you get from server depends on what? The route you are visiting and also the request method that you are using. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So now we are visiting this endpoint and we are sending what? Post request to it. If I send delete, you see what I'm seeing on screen, right? Is what? Delete. Do you get me? So that's just how it works. Now let's now try to do something something else. Okay, also let's try this profile endpoint. This profile endpoint, we've not tried it before. Let's try it. Let's add /profile at the back of our link. And let's just send let's say send what? Get. See that what we see is different, like hello world. That's what we are getting on the screen. That's how a server works, basically. A server will reply or respond to your request based on the URL path that you are visiting, and also the request method that you are sending to it, and also some other parameters to sometimes maybe headers or stuff like that. But that's beyond the scope of this particular class. So next thing is that what if you want to send a method that the server does not support? Now, this endpoint does not support what? Post. It only supports what? Yeah? Lukman, what request method does this endpoint support? Does it support post? It doesn't support post. It only supports what? Get. So let's send it. Can you see, can know what? Post what? Profile, because it does not support that request method. So let's now switch back to, let's go back to our root part. You see now that is what? Welcome home sending post. Because it was that one supports post, is replying to post. Let's now change to something like option. Let's send option. Can you see? It's showing us all the what? The request method that it supports. Do you get this particular endpoint supports? Do you get the magic of option now? Option is going to show you all the method that a particular endpoint supports. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So, but now let's change it to something like head. It doesn't support head at all. So you see, you are not getting anything. Let me try delete. Yes, anyone delete request. Let's try patch. Okay, you see, cannot patch. Yeah, it supports post actually. The other endpoint I was referring to does not support what? Post. It's slash profile, does not support post. So you can see that this, we have these how many endpoints? 1, 2, 3, right? Okay. So it depends on what you want to, the request method that you are sending, Sha. That's what it will reply to. Now, what other thing should we do? I mentioned something earlier that what if you want to make this thing dynamic? What if we have something like profile slash user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? What are you expecting me to do? Are you expecting me to have something like this in my backend? Which user? This is what you're expecting me to have, right? To 1 billion. No, I will never do that. That's not even feasible. What I will use is what we call a route parameter. And that route parameter will help me to make this endpoint dynamic. Do you get? Instead of having a static part, it's going to make it dynamic in the sense that I can have something like this. Let me say name or ID. Do you get? Do you see this method? What's the method? Get, right? Get is what? Profile slash ID. Do you get? There's a column, there's a column in front, right? It's different from this. Please note. Do you get? It's different. So now if I have something like this, now you can get, and it will, let's restart the server. Let's restart the server. Server is starting again. Okay. And let me now do slash profile slash let's say 1, right? So if I say post, it will not work because it only supports what? Get. So if I say post, cannot post profile slash 1. But if I get, it's going to what? Work. Hello world. And why is it working? It's working based on the fact that this what? ID is dynamic. So it doesn't have to be like anything. It can be 2, it can be 3, 4, 5, any number. It can even be something like this. I will send it and it will still work. Do you get? Now, if you now want to know the endpoint that user is visiting, how will you know? You can get it by using what? The request dot params dot ID. So this is the name. So if you have something like slash dot name, you can have it nested. It doesn't have to just be one. So you are going to get it based using what? Request dot parent dot name. Do you get? That's how to get the that. So now let's now see that any URL you visit, it will just echo back the URL you are visiting. So this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do basically. Let me just delete it and have something like a string like this. Okay, you are visiting what? Visiting slash profile slash what? The ID. So let me just use a template string. So we'll just say, so this is what you are visiting. Let me just ID here. So instead of, so this ID is going to be what? The ID the user is visiting, right? So now let's have some, let's shut down the server. Let's restart it again. And let's go back to our, let's we are not getting anything basically. I'm coming, what? So, I'm coming. I'm not getting anything. Let's go to slash profile. Server started. Okay. Okay, you see now that is working. You are visiting what? Profile slash ID1. So this now you can have something like this and it will show it back to you, echo back what you, the URL you visited back to you. But one principle that this, one thing that this thing works on is that now you can have something like const, you can say ABC is equal to, just store it here. Or you can say user ID is equal to this word. Parameter this user is sending, right? User ID. You can now replace this one here. Then it will still work. Now, based on this, you can query your database to fetch the data of that user based on the ID in the slash profile part. Then the next thing is you can also do one more thing. Since morning, we've been working with just text alone, right? It's also possible for you to return JSON objects. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So now if you are trying to return it using maybe like something like this, it will work, but it's going to be like a bit cumbersome and very hard to work with. The best thing you can do is that you can say that instead of sending, because it sends plain text by default, just a JSON, right? Then the JSON you want to send, you get JSON object, just say user ID. You can print user ID, comma, then maybe you are sending first, let me just say message success or okay. You get what I'm trying to do, right? So it's going to return this as what? A JSON object. So let me just let me shut down the server. Let me restart. Let's wait for the server to come up. Okay. Now if I go to that same URL now and I say get, this time around you can see that I'm having this JSON object. If I go to pretty, you can see that it's a bit, it's looking more beautiful because I'm returning it back in JSON as a JSON object, right? But one thing you have to notice is that when you are doing something like this, you can also see that there's this thing at the top of the page. See, 200. Okay. As a backend developer, you must be able to inform the front-end developer that, okay, this is the status of the request. Is it successful? Is the page not found? Is something wrong with the request, right? most of us, we are already familiar with error 404. And that 404 is a status code, right? For an endpoint or for a URL that is not available on the system. That does not exist on the system. Do you get? But there are other error codes too, or even like status code that you can return. You can return 2000, which is what? Okay, right? 201 for curated and other what? Request, other status codes. So now let's try one status code. Let's assume that in our code, we want the user to return what? The user to submit, see this thing here. We want the user to submit a number instead of a string, right? You can say if, okay. Let's say, okay, number greater than, let's just say if, okay, come in, let me try something. Oh, this is beyond the scope of what we're doing today. But let's just say, okay, let's have something very simple. If ID is equal to, let me see. So let me do something like this. If user ID dot, let me see, is equal to, yeah, is equal to, let me say, hello. Let's say you want to restrict your user from visiting this URL /admin. So let's say /admin. What I want to do is I want to restrict our user from visiting this URL, right? So anytime the user visits that profile /admin, it should return an error, right? And that error should be error what? Yeah? Okay, 401. So let's say return this. So we want to return this. Let's just say user ID. Okay. Then you can now say the status. And the status, what's the status code I want to return? 401, right? So if the, okay, if the user is trying to visit /admin, it should return what? 401. So what we'll do is let's restart the server and try. Let's see what we get. Now, if you send a request to that server now, you see that it's working, right? But you meant to change the URL to admin profile /admin, and you send. And you see that the error is what? Unauthorized 401. So that's just the main so there are different errors. There's even 403 forbidden. There's 201 curated, you get 202 accepted and all those stuff. So depending on what you are doing, that's what will determine the error code or the status code that we send back to the front-end developer or anyone accessing your endpoint. So you can also send error 500, which is server what's not available. There are error code, lots of error codes that you can send. Let's try 500 now and see what we'll be getting. If you try to return back status code 500 and do what send, you can see what internal server error. Can you see? So there are different error code that you can send. So once the front-end developer sees kind of error code, they will assume that the server is not responding with what it is meant to respond. So any data you send back is just for informational purpose. You get what I'm trying to say. So that's how it works. And that's all for today's class. And I hope you guys go and check. For dynamic, can we use it to query a specific data in the database with the dynamic ID of that data? Yeah, it is possible to use it to query. So once you set up your model, you'll be able to use it to query any data you want. And for tomorrow's class, we'll be seeing how we can query the balance of a particular wallet using a balance checking route. You can just set up a balance checking route, maybe something like /get balance. Then you provide the wallet address you want to check the balance of and to provide you with the balance. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. So thank you very much, everyone, and hope to see you guys tomorrow. If you're here to submit your assignment, please do so.